And my battery did not load. Fuck me. Here we are back with Avec, Infini, Regret. This is the Battle of Coutras, the last of the three that are included in this set. A little bit of iffiness about the setup with it because I think one of the aide-de-camps had to come out of a different battle. I'm not sure. Yeah, this guy looks like he has a dot on him. He's listed in the thing. It's one of the reasons why I kept everything available. I started putting them away. Another tricky piece with it is, in the special rules, the Protestant order of battle, they give you enough pieces for, well, they give you twice as many pieces as you think you need for the Protestant center wing here, which is mainly a cuirassier wing with some artillery in it. Well, it is a cuirassier wing. And this is to reflect two different usages of the musketeers involved in it. Now, musketeers are totally different than they are in musket and pike, but apparently this is the first battle in which musketeers traveled in conjunction with the cav and provided them with additional firepower support. So one set gives you a higher movement allowance and a higher fire number, which is a bad thing, right? And the other set has that lower fire and the lower movement allowance, indicating that they've got the musketeers attached to them. Musket and pike does this in a different way. The musketeers will be loose units and they're commanded, and you can incorporate them with your cav or not, depending on how you do things. When cav intercepts or whatever, it doesn't take its musketeers with it. They talk about this as it represents the enfants perdus, lost children riding double on the horses of the cuirassiers. I'm not sure that's what's done in the musket and pike games, but they are able to operate with the musketeers with them. Remember, I think those guys do have a 6 movement allowance, so this gives sort of a, hey, they're combined into one thing. The other option would be to deploy these units that are standard cuirassiers. I want to go with the historical instead and have, this Protestant militia unit as a separate formation. There aren't a lot of special rules in this. Roads have no effect. The Protestant artillery piece. Okay, this took some parsing because I had to go look at Rule 10.3. Contrary to that rule, this artillery unit can engage in offensive fire and defensive fire twice each during each game turn. It's actually perfectly clear, but when I first read it, I'm like, wait, it can do both of those normally, right? And had to go look that up, and then I'm like, okay, I see what they're saying. And apparently it had an incredible rate of fire for no real reason, maybe just really quality gunners or whatever. Doesn't have a high morale or anything. And the edges of the maps are the north and the south, which is that way and that way. There's no indication of who's on the attack or whatnot. The terrain itself may indicate some of this. We have woods and village, a little bit of a hill here, which gives a slight benefit. But I guess the big thing we have is this hedge line, which does almost nothing. It costs an extra movement point to go through, is all that it does. So this doesn't, cause any morale hits or anything. Some of these some of the royalist units are all, they're all French, damn it. Some of the royalist units are up in the forested area here. That gives them a potential defensive bonus there. Some of the Protestants are in the wooded area here. Some of these are behind this hedgerow. It doesn't really mean anything. A couple up on the hill. I think the Royalists have to attack. I don't know. Nobody has to attack. The victory points in this are based entirely on what you kill. So there's absolutely no terrain objective or anything like that. So there's nothing like that to kind of spark who's on the attack, although, as we've seen before, that might cause things to go wrong. Like, I don't know if it was in this series. I know in a musket and pike, under the Lily Banners scenarios, there were ones where, yeah, the person who was forced to attack was sort of not the person who wanted to, who historically was attacking, which felt really fucked up to me. Anyway, we have this. What's that? Gardens, I guess. I don't think it means anything. Yeah, gardens are the same as clear, just to make things more confusing. I don't see any, powerful defensive position. I also, don't see anything that really drives me to the, yes, I want to attack. I may shift some of the facing here. Let's talk about some of the units. So this is a bunch of those Protestant militia who are indeed Protestant in this scenario. Like I said, the cuirassiers here, and then again, the militia. The militia are basically big musketeer units. But they have significant firepower, as opposed to in musket and pike, where if you've got a big unit of musketeers, it wouldn't really provide a lot of firepower. Over here, we have a unit with gendarmes and a couple of arquebusiers as the cav, and then a huge unit cutting across here, made up of mainly whatever those old style Fs are. I don't know what they call them. They're legions or old French units, which are about 50-50 pike musket. Decent firepower, about equivalent to the musketeers, a little bit better staying power if they have to do militia, melee, and some Swiss units, which of course have almost no firepower in them. A center made up, this is all one wing, a center made up of the gendarmes, who all have lances, of course, no firepower, just a shock capability, and then another part of that wing up there. I don't know what orders I'm going to start with. That's kind of complicated for me. I'm really not sure what I want to do with that. And then that's going to be over on this, because this is only a 6-turn scenario, I hope. Because otherwise, it won't make sense at the end of 6 turns. So it's going to be a relatively small one. I'm almost out of battery because it didn't charge. So I'll go fuck around. And, I managed to throw a monkey wrench into me having to do anything today by sending an email. I mentioned that in my review on the last game. So, I can put it off another day. Having to do with my inheritance stuff that I have to deal with. Well, all that is, it's something that, just totally absorbs, it's so important and has to get done and everything that it completely overshadows any of the other things that I might have wanted to or had to cope with in my life. Not thrilled about that, but, it's yeah, but I'm still willing to come up and play to relieve my stress or just fart around on the computer or whatever else I do. Have coffee. So I did a little bit of thinking and decided I want this command to be under a charge. I'm kind of thinking an echelon type advance that'll allow me to maybe, I don't know. See, if I had more wings on the Royalists, I would want this to be part of this wing. Like normal, I'd want a center wing that maybe advanced a little quicker, and I'd want to hold this and have it anchor that center wing, although the artillery could cause some issues to that. For the Protestants, I decided they're in a decent defensive position. I'm gonna stay in march for the most flexibility. I didn't randomize. I thought about doing that, but I also moved everybody so that they're just facing forward, rotated all the counters, because this little hedgerow means nothing. It's not as significant as such barriers are in the musket and pike, where they involve a formation hit usually. This makes it a little easier, but slopes also don't, which is cool. I mean, they don't, so they kind of have no effect in musket and pike, or if they have a movement point effect, which these do, they also have a formation hit. And if you remember my musket and pikes videos, I really hate terrain that causes the formation hits, because it just means that your attack falters. It doesn't make it up. It makes sense, but the way the game works, you don't want to continue your attack. You quite often want to take a pause to like reorganize and stuff as you go up, each level of elevation or whatever, if they're going to affect you that way. All right, which means we start with this wing in charge. It should be relatively, what the fuck is this? E. I don't remember what they are. They kind of look like they might have lances. I know that there's two things that have lances. Yeah, well, they're armed with light lances, but I don't think they actually have lances. I don't remember. Ugh. There we go. Only G-type units. Yeah. Okay. These are armed with lances, but they don't break them or something. The attack I launched, lances have effect, but I can't get the charge bonus because these guys are all in the woods. Not a lot of choice. Otherwise, we could just sit across from each other and do nothing. Okay, so I don't know what the fuck happens here. I hit this unit, drove it back. That blocked this guy's retreat. He got hit. He's driven back too. I rolled on the unable to retreat. Reduce one level. I believe that is a morale level, essentially. So he would go to broken. When you break, you have to retreat twice. I think he has to roll yet again on that retreat roll, unable to retreat. And that would kill him this time. I think. I don't want to puzzle it out too much. And then these fuckers, when they enter the woods, take another hit. And we got some fire at that as it comes in. So that's a 4. Woods is like just 1. Okay. So it brings it to a 5, which doesn't do shit. And now we get a continuation over with this command. Yay. I know. Why am I doing all this? Which we do not get, of course, because continuations are unlikely. I mean, I don't know that they're that much. I don't know that they're that different. I feel like this is the make ready. I think they're 1 point different, but also the leaders tend to be pretty crappy in this scenario. That's going to put it over to one of the Protestant commands. I don't necessarily want to come out of my defensive positions, so I guess I'll use the guy who's just gotten hit, and he has some capacity to try to rally and fire, and I think I'm going to stay in the woods, honestly. Since I wanted to keep this big formation in March, is I want the cav to be able to charge. I want these to kind of anchor them, and these might as well move forward. It's not going to hurt them. To start that march forward, because these artillery are able to fire twice of each type, I'm going to have to use 2 counters for each one, or well, there's only one. And if it fires twice offensively, it would still be face up, able to fire twice more defensively. Here it's going to probably get 2 defensive shots. Not for starting in charge. I marched forward about partial movement. These guys kind of moving slower. I want them in the front. I'm not sure why, because I can't really do much to that cab. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to throw myself into charge now. That'll move me out of the woods here that I kind of wanted to be in. But F versus M is still good because I'm still kind of I don't know if I'm a pike unit. But some of them look like they have pikes. Some of them do not. This isn't musket and pike. I like these letters on them much, much better than the way musket and pike shows them. I did look at those, the reprints, like the tri-pack or double pack or whatever of musket and pike. The counters may be uglier, but damn it, they look like they contain more information in a more readable fashion. Now that huge wing comes flying out, charging all over it. This battle could be decided all at once. On the other hand, the combat in this tends to be a little less bloody than in the M&P stuff. Actions are less effective in this. First of all, you probably don't get the charge marker because you just don't have the range to do it. And secondly, you don't even get the I get to hit first guarantee. So you can't like break their lances or anything like that, right? The attacker, the active player gets to choose his attacks after you've made your interceptions. So they get all their toys and bonuses. If you didn't intercept, or if you did intercept, you still break the charge, which is a big deal. But it's just not as powerful as in M&P, where a lot of times getting that reaction charge is so potent. The charge was not as effective as I would have hoped. Part of it is because the gendarmes, they sound like they're tough and everything, but the cuirassiers are better in combat. G versus C is -1, C versus G is a 0. Against their own type, they're zeros. They don't get an advantage for hitting their own type, which makes sense. But the cuirassiers are just a more powerful and effective type. I think I forgot to fire some cuirassiers here. These guys would have gotten a shot off. Oops. No more destruction. And you can see the line, kind of holding up. Can't attack here, don't want to attack here. C versus F is a -1. I would have broken even. Rather get, a numerical advantage or something else to get me to the edge there. And it's going to be it's going to be the 2 Protestant wings next, but I'm going to break for a bit. I guess for the Protestants, I'm going to go with this command first because I do want to recover units rather than anything else. I actually might just need to drop into rally here. I've got this other command here. I don't know what I can do with it. Those fucking musketeers, they don't really want to close with those F class, right? I certainly can't melee them. Although, actually, I'm shitty attacking too. I have good firepower though, but I could move 1, 2, 3, and then I wouldn't have enough to shoot in this system. So, yeah, I'll let them come to me, I guess. Annoying position with the artillery. I'm going to get 2 offensive fires. Well, I've used my defensive fire, but I don't have any more markers. It's not really too big a deal. I can take them both at once, Continuation, I managed to get enough shot off into him that I damaged him, but I didn't get the second shot to have an effect. That puts me on those musketeers. 1, 2, 3, still can't shoot. Screw it. I think I'm just going to pass with them, essentially. Which means we're done with the first turn, and I recover stuff. All right, here on the second turn, the Royalists are all in charge. The Protestants are not, so the Royalists are going to go first. I'm at this horrible stage, pretty day out and everything. I'm too fucking tired. Like, I went to bed yesterday, not long after this, like around 4 or so, I guess, I don't know. And just the avoidance thing is problematic. But anyway, I'm not sure what I want to use first, to tell you the truth. This definitely feels like it needs a recovery stage, but these guys are also, it's such a big wing that, like, it's really hard to operate such a large wing, you know. And I'm fighting against stuff that did take a little bit of recovery, so I feel like I need to do some as well. Of course, I've got the victory point edge, whatever that's worth. In both cases, I went full rally and successfully got the change. That's the easiest change to go from charge to rally. I'm not quite sure why. It feels to me like anything should be able to slip into rally pretty easily, probably. It wasn't wholly successful in either case, as you can see. This guy, like, rallied but got shot. This guy, I think, failed. We got all kind of things. Took the guns out, though. And that's some points. And that's going to put us over to all the Protestants kind of at once. You got to think about this. Like, I could advance and fire, but that puts me at a little more risk. I might be better off just staying like I am and just, you know, shooting up the units that are in front of me and say screw it to the rest of them. And there's no real ordering to things. I think those guys still want to stay where they are, although there are some advantages to advancing on these things. Because this wing is so big, it's hard to manipulate, but in rally, why bother? Some firing here broke this unit. Actually had a melee there, but a decent amount of fire and counter fire. Didn't do much, but the melee actually destroyed one of these gendarmes. Now I'm on that last unit. I just think I want to hold it. I want to hold it in reserve. Because I can't get a shot off. But maybe I want to inch forward. I inch forward, I open things up for him to... No, I don't. All right, let's inch forward. Let's see what happens if I get a continuation on this. This is a march. That's not going to continue, so that's end of turn. Move to turn 3. Again, much less bloody. Got that router going off the board, but otherwise, just flipping the leaders over. Royalists are still winning. I can get rid of this shit. Not going to need it for the rest of this series. Well, half-assery got me through again. The email ended up working, and I'm getting sent the forms again. And that way, I can go into this kind of panic. Is that all I actually needed? You know, did I need to talk to someone? I don't know. The lady on the line yesterday made it sound like I actually really needed to talk to someone. They couldn't just, like, handle this for me so easily via email. Anyway, now we are on turn 3. The Royalists are all in rally, which means I gotta pick me a Protestant to go. There's definitely some advantage to unleashing some fire here. Although I don't get as many. But it may be of more value to try to recuperate. I don't know if that's a Protestant. Yeah. To try to recuperate in this command. Yeah, I'm not sure. Best leader in the game, I thought he could get into charge. He couldn't. Thought he could get a continuation. Maybe he couldn't. So he ended up rallying the one unit and trading some, well, not even trading, right? Oh yeah, he gets to trade fire. So that's got, that goes up to a 7. He hit that thing and does not get hit back. And I guess I go with this one. It really doesn't make much difference because I've got to do all mine first. We get into charge here, therefore it did nothing. This one I did get a continuation on and pumped some fire into that thing and sent another one of his cav running. I guess I'll do him next to try to repair that. Meanwhile, that stupid monster wing, which is really hard to deal with, got itself into charge. I marched these Fs forward, whatever the hell they are, and they underwent fire from the musketeers. They don't want to fire again, because I believe the musketeers, I believe you're allowed to fire back as many times as you like. You're only allowed to reaction move once. You're allowed to fire back, return fire for each action, if I recall correctly. I could be fucking that up. The problem is that things are, yeah, I think so. Things are separated out and are structured differently from the musket and pike rolls, where in musket and pike you're allowed, I think, infinite reactions, but it includes all types. Anyway. But what's key here is that I'm going to be in a position to hit those units. You know what? This might have gotten attacked. It hasn't done anything yet. I could have attacked it in my turn though. Let me this one I wouldn't have done, right? C versus G. Yeah, I would have. Fuck. I get confused because it wasn't in an attack. You know, I wasn't under some sort of attack orders, but that doesn't matter in either system, honestly. I'll let it stand. But this one, I would have been attacking at +3. Yeah, I gotta do this. I gotta do these. I might reverse those guys. +3 on the attack table gets me to 5A1. And this will be D1R1. That would have broken that unit. One, two, three, 4, heading up this way. And this one would have hit. Again, C versus G would be at even. Morale is the same. So I'd be at +2, +3 again. These are good numbers. I can't give them up. He didn't advance, did he? He'd have to advance. He'd get shot. The arquebusiers are a 6 with defensive fire versus cav is a penalty, so the base is 7. I still hit. but it does nothing. This one was a +3 again. And that's a 9, A1, D2, R2 with a leader loss check. Didn't get hurt. Does hurt this. What did I say it was? D2, R2. R2, D2. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that would be an E as well. I'll put these here. And I'm not so sure I wanted to go into charge after that. I was in rally. Make ready wouldn't work. So I'm just going to fall back with that rally, I guess. Because losing units to breaking is going to put me over the edge. This is what we're left with instead. This line's still back here. I recovered there. I recovered there. However, I'm done. And done with the turn, too. Putting me to turn 4. The problem being this guy went off board. And that's putting me in some definite danger. It's just the morale of the units that you lose. I think all of these are worth 1, but I may be mistaken. Yeah, 7 or less are worth 1. So we're tied now. And I just have to unflip at this point. It is probably around 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday, I guess. Raining still, it's raining all week. Rain seems to be coming early this year. But we'll get to the game. I feel like, you know, a great weight has been lifted off my shoulders, right? Because I don't have this thing that I had already forgotten about, you know, and really wasn't doing anything about or worrying about or anything like that, and still had all this angst and everything about other things in my life. But now that this is gone, it's like it was such an oppressive weight that it cleared everything else off. Now, I've still got to deal with it when it comes back and everything, but right now I can't do anything about it. And it overshadowed everything else, so everything else is drowned. So it gave me a little, like, window to escape from, to not feel as stressed or whatever about all the things I'm not doing. So I took up better habits and, you know, started cuddling up under blankets and reading, in this case rules, but I got a book I want to read and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, when I forget, this kind of happened a bit over the summer too, when I can get rid of all the things that are really, really like, that I have to do, but I'm not fucking doing. If I can get them out of my mind, I enjoy myself a lot more. And I learned this lesson in college, but I also learned the cost of putting all the stressors aside and just saying, fuck it, which was, you know, I didn't do well. But I felt better. I was happier than, and this happened a couple of times this year. It happens every year where, you know, I just say fuck it kind of, and I enjoy myself for a while, but eventually the stressors come back. Anyway, what's nice about reading on the beanbags like that is I doze off after a little bit, and then I take some sleep, and I almost always have dreams. This time it was a very painful dream. It actually hurt my knee, but and that makes my life better and everything. I'm just like, I'm doing more healthy things than sitting in front of the computer trying to drown my sorrows that way. But it is what it is. Okay, here we are at the beginning of turn 4. It's not a very long scenario. What is going on? Big wing, all the royalists are in rally still, and all the Protestants are in march, so I have to figure out a Protestant that I want to do. It kind of doesn't matter the order too much. I'm going to start over here this time because I feel like I can get some, I might cause some issues that maybe a follow-through attack up here would help or something. I don't know. Kind of don't want to leave these woods. With this, and this doesn't happen in the M&P rolls because you take one action, advancing fire. You get shot first, then you shoot back. Of course, you shoot back at a penalty. Whereas if you open fire up, it's useful to you. Problem with advancing like this is that even if I'm going one-on-one, I get shot once when I advance, and then if I want to fire, I get shot again. No. Nothing happened on this connection. And it's doubled if I move into a hex like this. Well, not quite. I move into this hex, I get shot by 2, then I get shot by 1 if and when I fire. The other problem is I'm open to melee now. Fuck. Advance was basically just shattered by that. Fs are just so much better than Ms. Ms have no chance with the advance. Really, all they can do is provide a firing screen. I was hoping to kind of, skirmish them with better firepower, but these things have a lot of firepower. Not quite as much as a pure musketeers, but they're also militia. They're just only armed with the guns. Sorry. Well, so that wasn't an answer. I learned my lesson there a little late. Probably because I was asleep. Like, sleeping fucks me up. This guy's really got to recover. And I don't terribly want to attack. I think I'll stay in march because I can recover both the units that I need to. Wing, I got a continuation, but I didn't want to leave march on the first one. On the second one, I was mostly reformed. I wasn't able to. I did get that second activity, but changing from march to charge, I rolled way too high. My lesson here, these guys can't attack. They just can't. Which, they can't attack infantry. I could turn, move into here. This wouldn't get a shot at me, and it's not good at melee. I wouldn't get a shot either. Okay, that's not too bad. This guy could move here. I would get shot, and I'd be able to shoot back, and I would get shot again, which isn't great. But this poor fucker would have to move forward into the open where the cav would just, destroy him. So I'm not doing anything with him. I mean, there's just nothing I want to do. And there's no need to try to go for additional continuations or whatnot. In musket and pike, it is important because you want your army leader to move around rallying your units. So even if you're not doing anything with the command, its very existence as a wing lets you run around more, which can be really, really valuable, especially with tiny wings because they're very easy to manage on their own. So something like this little 3 units or whatever, it was a 4-unit wing, but something like a 3-unit wing, and there are some in it, are just this bonus for the army commander in reality. Well, on to the royals. I wasn't able to get a reactivation, so I rallied this unit, fired, that's it. There's no way out of rally. I needed it here. I recovered this unit. Managed to run all the way over to this and get most of my my fire line there back into shape. This guy failed. and I don't think we took any hits from doing it. But of course, we don't get a continuation or anything, so it's down to turn 5, and I recover units. And yeah, I mean, it feels like nothing's able to happen. This game just handcuffs you more than the musket and pike system does. And I don't know if that's trying, actually more accurate either across the board or to the wars of religion. It doesn't feel it. It feels like the battles are just too inconclusive, although some of the ones in musket and pike feel like they're a little bit extreme in terms of the amount of losses and activity that you take over the course of that router. Frankly, though, I'd rather err on the side of, if it's going to be ahistorical either way, I'd definitely rather err on the side of a little bit more action going on. It's just more exciting as a game. This just feels so handcuffed. Now, obviously, the choice of a 10-sided die, they could find maybe a middle ground between a 3 and a 4, or, whatever, to give you a little bit more activity or a little bit less. Just feels like, don't want to use something that's bigger than the 10-sider, like a 20-sider or something, to try to improve that, or percentile or anything like that. And I understand that, 10-siders are relatively common in wargaming, and they should provide enough of a span. But also the fact that there's no received charge in this. Received charge allows a good leader to get continuations in musket and pike, while still reforming his troops. Can't really rally them, but he can rally a few, but he can reform the entire line. This, because it mixes reform and rally in terms of the morale versus formation, and drops that ability, it just makes you fall into rally more, which again is another, there's less going to happen, because even a really good leader can't get continuations off a rally. Let's just keep going. It looks to me like we've got a march here, but we got 3 of actually. We got a charge! Oh, I better get out of that. There's no guaranteed way to drop out of charge. I think I'm going to have to fall into rally, but I think that's what I want to do anyway. But yeah, there's no enforced rally. So let's take a look. Charge to rally is a 5 at least, but yay, we get it. In March, not stuck. He wanted to stay in March because he had this thing to keep recruiting or reforming. We had a little bit of gunfire exchange here. I ended up hurt. The arquebuses are not as good as pistols in this, firepower-wise, strangely. Make arguments either way. I don't know if there's historical documentation that really, supports either argument. I'm thinking from my mind. Yeah, arquebuses are going to probably have a little bit more range and everything, but they're going to be a pain in the ass to actually fire. And the Carousel is maybe at its height at this point. So that may be trying to reflect the advantages that applied. Now we're over to the 2 Protestant march units. Do was slip up a hex over, but I can't do that because I'd have to go adjacent there. And I don't want to go into charge because I could move here, I could move there, but this guy moving here would not be one closer. So, fuck him. He's just essentially out of play. Not doing anything, but he is anchoring my flank to some extent. Innovations, neither one was able to get out of March. So, just exchanging some fire here. That's it. Yay. So exciting. Oh, that will put me to the last activation. And then we got only one more turn. I'm going to take a break, but able to get out a rally with this guy. That ends the turn, but this guy shot successfully and engaged in melee. I don't think this one's worth it. F is like +2. I'm at like -3. M attacking F is at -2. He actually could have gotten, you know, like a +1 or something. I don't know, that's pretty good because I got to rally these things. Let's go for it. But the thing is, I kind of forgot to do these attacks during his activation. So things got slowed down a little. Some of that has to do with this huge wing, although I should have noticed on his activation. I understand why I had trouble noticing it on the big wing, but I did notice it there. So I've got +3 morale, M attacking F. Yeah, that's a +1. Let's go for it. It's about the best I can hope to do. Well, it ain't too good. Not either, to be honest, because this thing already was in E status, which, you know, the first time you get a counter on something, which doesn't feel all that, you know, potent, right? That's like a morale shaken type result. At the worst, or a formation shaken. But there's actually, I think, less steps here. No, formation shaken is flipped over. So it's actually like, you know, I kind of like morale shaken. But what it means is anything you do that's going to give you a hit, like moving in the woods or whatever, will break you. And this one's already running off the board. Now that becomes a key thing that I want to deal with to prevent myself from losing more points. I'm barely winning this battle. Letting that off the board, given how hard it is to actually kill anything, becomes really, really important not to do it. You know, it's like a soccer game. The score is going to be so fucking low that, you know, you can't give something up for, well, in a soccer game, you know, one person scores or the other person scores. So it's not really like you'd let some. It doesn't really work as an analogy, and that's kind of the problem that I have. Like, people look at football, at least American football, whatever, as sort of this very military game because you're trying to gain ground and everything. But the truth of the matter is, you've got this one weird, you know, very artificial thing that you're trying to push forward, right? With trying to get the ball over the into the end zone, and it doesn't really feel like, it might feel kind of military in the sense of, like, you know, trying to get an explosive charge to a specific location, and you don't really care how many men you lose doing that. The only important thing is that the one guy gets through with that charge. That's a very different situation than this, where it's like, yeah, this is, you know, part of my score, and so I'm gonna have an inhibition against any kind of attacks because I need to make sure I don't lose that unit because the score's close. It's like a soccer game or football, non-American football, in the sense that the score is low, but and that you don't want to let any score through. But in terms of the play, yeah, you know, if some guy twists his ankle or something, I don't know. You don't kill a couple of people hoping it'll somehow help them. I have no idea what like it just doesn't, there's no way of matching it. Okay, I'm gonna go read some rolls because we're obviously near the end of Avec, Infini. Got sucked into the interwebs instead of reading, which is a shame. At some point I'll just say, oh, I have to read because I have to get what I'm doing done. So where are we here? Rally, march, 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 rally. Double March over here. Kind of feels like the French goal is to not lose the edge they have. They may, like, I'm not usually someone who's like, oh, we're playing a binary one lost. But in this particular circumstance, we're so close. And I don't see a lot of chance for either side, honestly, to change the circumstance. So, you know, again, not losing this unit becomes absolutely vital. Do I need to rally? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I might be able to do March, but a chance to shake things up, which is the Protestant center. I chose to try to get into charge because I have some nice attacks. Remember, those cuirassier units are better than the gendarmes in this. They have better melee and better firepower capability. They have firepower capabilities. But I ended up not being able to change into it and not getting a continuation. So now I guess we're over to this guy, who again, he's just trying not to lose the game. I don't know what his name is, but Lavardin or something like that. Gunga Din. Ends up, he wanted to be in March, succeeded in rallying, moving a unit forward and forming that unit up. Firepower took him out, no continuation, as is so common the case. Now here's where my victory concept goes into a weird drive, which is that, look, if I were playing the binary win-loss across the board, these guys would try to get into charge, hope that they could firepower their way into something. But, I mean, I'm not going to retreat off the map anyway. Yeah, let's see. Managed to reposition a little bit for a slightly better attack position. Got a continuation, didn't get charge on either of my actions, so, well, he's done. That will put it over on the full wing of the Royalists. And I probably called them French again. Again, most important thing, prevent that from running away. I can extend my command out to here, but not to here. And if I move to save that, that's not going to help either. I will try to get into March because it gives me flexibility to maybe do more, but you know, there's not a hell of a lot of reason to anything. Managed to do what I need to, which is stop that broken unit from getting out. Don't get a continuation. There was an assault across here, which I don't know if it does much good, but yeah, the musketeers were like, hey, I'm at 0, I think. Right? Yeah, they made an attack at 0 against the rear of those Fs and got an okay roll, so. And that puts me to the last activation of the game, which is this. It's in rally. If I could take this out through a lucky roll, I could get a win, and I feel like that's worth the gamble. That's why I attacked to begin with. Even at odds that I normally wouldn't attack with, I'm just like, yeah, you know, I'm a little behind. Getting that tiny edge makes sense, and it's not, you know, I'm not gonna cause a huge problem like a big charge might, or something along those lines. I think I want to try to get into March. It's unlikely. No. So that's the only thing we're going to do, along with, rallying forces. Much as we could, we broke that unit. I mean, yeah, we could have gotten a slightly higher roll. We were at +1 here. We managed to get an 8, which caused a D1. If we had gotten a little bit higher total, like we rolled a 7, that means we had a 20% chance of actually, I think, evening this game up. So, I mean, the units would flip over. Who cares about that? This thing should have a movement of 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's not going to make it off the map. So this is the points we have. There was no leader loss. And it looks like 3-2. Unless there's something. Nope. Nothing else happens. So that's it. And an incredibly unbloody and unsatisfying, fight. Now, again, I'm not sure. I know that some of the 30 Years' War stuff was incredibly bloody. In terms of losses, you're talking things like 30% losses and stuff like that, which probably is an indication of all the units are wrecked. I have no idea if the Wars of Religion are this much less bloody. It seems unlikely. In particular, okay, look, I know the Cuirassiers before Gustavus were not as impactful. And they're the best units on the board. Gendarmes, I feel like they probably still were infused at this point with that sort of chivalric ideal. And that may be partially, affecting their combat capabilities as expressed in whatever. But the fact that they're kind of weaker means that they don't really, as a player, you don't really want to engage them. And there may have been some hesitancy in some cases, hence, nothing that forces them to roll for such a wing to roll for charge or anything in the actual scenario rules. I don't know, but it really feels to me like, even when I do take the chance and charge forward, especially when I have lances and get the charge bonus and all that, it's just not that impactful. And in fact, the interception capabilities of the Cuirassiers cuts that down and makes it, so that the charges get broken up in this system and whatnot. If we were playing with the musket and pike rules, this would be bloodier. And I don't know, again, I don't know if this is historically accurate within the framework, more so than musket and pike would be for this era. But again, it's just a little less fun. No, I'd say a lot less fun, because just you're not seeing these broad sweeping movements, these tangled cav fights and all this kind of stuff that really made me so thrilled with musket and pike. And this is a relatively clear battlefield. Yes, there's woods around it that you could defend yourself in or hide behind or whatever, and make it very hard for someone to take you out. But at the very least, your army, at the very least, it shouldn't be a situation where two armies are still kind of clashing lightly. You still have some contact with the enemy in various places. And be this healthy. It's not like I tried to avoid combat with either side particularly. I was desperately looking for fights. The Protestants advanced with the musketeers. That was a really terrible move. Did they pay a price for it? Yeah, they lost the game because they lost one of those musketeers. But it's not like that wing collapsed by making that horrible move. All right, we'll pack this one in and come back with the review of the system Definitely not the musket and pike system. Very closely related. A precursor, well, based on a precursor to it, but these were coming out, after sort of the most popular wave of the M&B games came out.